Hi, and welcome to another episode of Fix or Repair Daily from DTF Garage. Today we're going to be working on installing a remote start kit for my 2012 Ford Escape. Now originally I bought a Ford genuine accessory remote start kit. It's a part that had been discontinued for a while, and I was able to get it super cheap. Unfortunately, upon looking on it more and more, I looked into the actual installation for it. I really didn't like the Ford remote start. So instead, I decided to go with this MPC remote start kit I got off of Amazon. It was still in relatively low range. It was more than I paid for that on a discount, but I paid about $120 for it off of Amazon. Not bad, and a hell of a lot simpler to wire up. One of the big differences that I liked between the Ford kit and this MPC kit is that with the MPC kit, you use your factory remote fob. You just hit the lock button 3 times and it starts the vehicle. With the Ford kit, you had a separate remote. There were a bunch of funky features that the Ford kit had that I just really didn't like, and I understand why they had them in place, but it was just really annoying. One of them being that you could remote start the vehicle with the spare fob that came with it. But the second you unlock the car or open the door or anything, it would shut the car off. I thought that was kind of dumb. I get why they did it. For this model year, they had the MyKey remotes, where you could limit your settings, speed, stereo volume, a bunch of different stuff. And so their concept with it was that they didn't want your kid to take your remote start, unlock it with all the full admin features, and then get in with their key and just drive it away. So they have to unlock the door, which will turn off the car, and then they actually have to start it with their key, which has the MyKey limitations. So that was one thing I didn't like about it. Another big thing for me when it came to these kits was wiring. Now, this is the entire MPC kit. It's super simple. It's one main wiring harness that plugs into this module here. And there's only 2 wires on this entire kit that you actually have to splice into the factory wiring. Now for the Ford kit, you've got these wires. There's about 100 different wires here that you have to splice into the factory wiring to get the whole thing to work correctly. For the door lock and unlock switch, the overhead console lights, it's a huge kit, and you have to drill through the firewall. This switch that attaches to the hood, which tells the system if the hood is open or not. That way the car doesn't accidentally remote start while someone is working on the car. Again, features I get, but we're just so way too much work to actually wire into the car. I honestly can't believe that this retailed for $400 brand new, and when I talked to my guys at Ford, they said it was like $600-700 to install, and I was thinking, who on earth was paying $1,000 to $1,200 to install a remote start kit back in 2012? It blows my mind. The MPC kit comes with this little switch here. That you can use to deactivate and activate the remote start kit. So if you are working on the car, you can just flip that switch. The system is off. You don't have to worry about it. It's a lot less drilling and wiring that you have to do to ensure your safety while working on the car. So again, a lot simpler kit. It's going to be awesome. So I'm thinking with taking the body panels off and doing the programming and everything on this, it'll probably take me like a half an hour to install it. It looks super easy. So I think the biggest task is probably going to be taking off the interior panels to get underneath the steering wheel to put this on, and maybe finding my tools. That might take longer than expected. All right, so actually taking off these body panels isn't going to be that hard. So the first one you're going to want to remove is down here. It's the cover underneath the dash. You're going to grab from the top where it kind of comes up to the steering wheel and just pull. Pretty simple. Not even a bolt or anything that you have to take off there. And then you've got the steering column shroud here that has 2 bolts underneath. Those are 5.5 millimeter or 7/32 in. Just kidding, there's 3. There's a third one way in the back, in the middle here, just behind the adjustment lever for the steering wheel. Once you have those 2 bolts, you can feel where it separates about halfway through, and you can remove the top portion from the lower portion. Now that we have the cover off and the ignition lock cylinder exposed, you can see the immobilizer ring around the lock cylinder. What this ring does is it reads the chip that's in your key and sends that to the computer that tells the vehicle it's okay to start. So what we're going to do is unplug this harness from the back of it. And it's easier to do when you're not holding the camera. Okay, so we're going to unplug that harness. So what we're going to do is plug this into here and then plug this back into the immobilizer ring. So when it starts the car, basically the module here is going to act as if there's a key sending a signal to the computer. So once you've got that plugged in, then we're going to go onto this side of the steering wheel, and we're going to unplug the actual ignition switch. And we're going to plug the other part of this T-connector in the same way we did the other side. So that is going to plug into here, nice and easy. And this is going, to plug in right there. And that will allow the module to act as if the key is actually being turned in the ignition to activate the switch to send power to the engine. This particular module is programmed for MyEscape, but they do use the same module and wiring on multiple Ford vehicles. So on this particular one, you'll want to take the purple with a yellow stripe wire and just snip that in half. If the ends are exposed with wire hanging out, you'll probably want to tape it up. These aren't really exposed, so I'm probably just going to leave those. Next up is your OBD2 plug that is located just behind your parking brake here. Now we're going to use a screwdriver to pop in the top slot here and release that. It's going to make it a little easier to work with. Pull that down, and then the kit we need to wire in, we need to splice into this number 3 terminal on the top. It's the third one over from the top. And this number 11 terminal which is the third one over from the bottom. Now I'm gonna splice this protective sheath around it so we've got a little more room to work. It's gonna make it a little easier. Can high, gray and orange. And I love these quick splices because they truly are quick and easy to undo. So now we're going to take the can low, which is going to go to the purple with orange tracer wire. Snap that right in there. Crimp those wires together. Make sure they're all nice and tight. Close that over. And then we're going to go ahead and just pop that back into place. And then we can tape these wires back up underneath here so they're not in the way of anything. So like I said, it's relatively easy to do. The next part comes programming. Now, this is just like programming any other Ford key. You have to have 2 different factory keys that are already programmed to the vehicle. If you only have one, you're going to have to get a second, and it's going to have to be programmed at a dealer. You cannot go to Walmart or a store that clones your key, because it's not going to work. Each key has a unique identifier, and if you have a cloned key that has the same identifier as your key, each time you stick them in the ignition, it's going to think you're inserting the same key over and over again. So you're going to have 2 factory keys, each with unique identifiers. And if you don't have them, like I said, you can go to the dealership and they can program a second key for you. Now, don't tuck your module away yet, because you do need to have this in your hand while you're programming this. So don't tuck away any of your wires. Also make sure to have this valet switch that disactivates or deactivates the remote start as well, in case you accidentally flip it to the wrong side. That way you can flip it back and program the module. You're gonna wanna hold down the button on the module and then plug in this small black connector on the side. That will start flashing. Once it hits the red light, let go of the button on the module. If it's not solid red, you can disconnect this little black plug and start it over again, but that does need to be red. Now, if at any time you mess up or have to repeat your steps, just unplug that black connector again and start over from scratch. Key number 1, 1, 2, 3. The security light on the dash shuts off. Key number 2, 1, 2, 3. The security light on the dash shuts off. And then you're going to hold this down until the vehicle starts. The red light's going to flash. Then the blue light's going to flash. And then the ignition turns off. And that should do the programming. So, we're going to check it. I'm going to hit the lock button on this 3 times. All right. Pretty easy. Pretty easy. It does take a second to start up after you hit the button, as you noticed, so don't be too impatient. Just give it a few seconds and it'll start up. Wow, that was a lot easier than I expected. Holy shit. Okay. Cool. So, then when you're ready to drive your vehicle, you can get in, unlock the door with the remote. The vehicle stays running. But you do have to put the key in the ignition to unlock the cylinder so you can drive the car. So that's all there is to installing a remote start kit on your 2008 to 2012 Ford Escape. This kit was super easy. I highly recommend it. I'll probably end up installing another one on my girlfriend's Focus, because it's really easy and it's not that expensive either. So this was a great kit. I highly recommend it. Now that I've got it all done, I can tuck all the wiring, get everything buttoned up. I'll drill a little hole for that on-off switch, so I can have access to that if I or someone else is working on the car. And you're all set. So thanks again for watching DTF Garage. My name is Brad, and as always, stay boosted. Today we're going to be working on installing a remote start kit. Remote? Why did you say that so weird? Remote. It's just a really. I'm gonna just restart just for clarification, so you know, Brad, what I'm doing. I'm restarting that last thing, but I can't remember where I left off, so I'm just going to kind of start in the middle.